Hello, welcome back to the show. Today we're joined by Derry Green from the Secret Garden Glamping in the UK. Many of you will remember him from his previous appearance on the show, where he told us all about how he's booked 18 months in advance, how he won funding from Dragon's Den, which is the UK's equivalent of Shark Tank, and he teased a little bit about how he's such a social media expert, and that's what we're going to be diving into today. Derry's understanding of the social media algorithms is quite simply the best I've ever seen in the glamping space. He has an unbelievable understanding of how it all works and, more importantly, how to perform well on those social media algorithms. So we're going to be doing a bit of a deep dive into that today, really digging into Derry's expertise and hopefully sharing some wisdom with you. It's going to get a little bit technical at times, but we're going to try and keep it accessible as well. So really excited to have Derry back on today. I am hosting solo today. We were supposed to be joined by Nathan Woods, former CMO of Bolt Farm Treehouse, and who's been on the pod a couple of times. Unfortunately, he's had a little bit of a family matter to deal with. So just me today, but that's nothing you haven't heard before. So obviously, don't forget, always check out the Glamping Insider, my new newsletter, which I'm really happy with. Obviously, check out Posh Outdoors. I know I go on about it. And I won't keep you any further. So onto the show. Welcome, Derry. And we're live. Derry, welcome back to the show. It's been a good 6-7 months since you were last on. I know a lot's been going on in my life. I'm sure twice as much has been going on in yours, given how many opportunities you've got. So tell us a little bit about what you've been up to since we last spoke.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been never ending. So since Dragon's Den, it's just been phenomenal. Every day there's something new coming down the line and just trying to figure out the direction of the business going forward, trying to sieve through the opportunities of what we've come across now. And eventually, it's all kind of culminating now for the end of this year to take 2025 by storm. So multiple new locations, multiple new businesses and options to go forward with, and it's been a crazy year, and I can't believe we're at the end of October already. It is madness, but yeah, it's been really exciting. We've got the first unit at La Mancha Hall open now, which has been going down really well. I love that site; it's beautiful. I just want to be over there more, and yeah, it's going from strength to strength.
Yeah, and as I say, we'll link your previous appearance in the description. But for those who didn't listen to that episode, could you give the 90-second recap of your story, your site, and your appearance on Dragon's Den, which for American listeners is the UK's equivalent of Shark Tank?
Yeah, so 2020 came in, lockdown, COVID. Stuck at home with my two young children and nothing to do, so I started a project in the garden. We had a camping trip, and that quickly got out of hand. I built a whole kind of glamping pod outdoor area just for me and the kids over lockdown, not to start a business. But then a story was done about me in the media on what a dad had built in lockdown for his kids, and that went viral. The response from that was phenomenal, and I got people messaging me asking, can we come and stay in your garden? Which at the time seemed bizarre to me, but I thought, I've got nothing to lose, why not? So I listed it on Airbnb, and within 3 days it was booked for 2 years in advance. So from there, long story short, we applied for planning permission. We got planning permission for a 4-acre woodland, and now we've got 13 units in there. We're the most viewed, most followed, most booked site in the UK by a country mile. We've got over 1 million followers across our social media platforms. We usually book anywhere between 18 months and 24 months in advance, and we've had 100% occupancy for the past 4.5 years now.
It's not too bad, is it?
Yeah.
And so and when you went on Dragon's Den, obviously you're building up a significant following before that. But when you went on Dragon's Den, which is a pretty popular show in the UK, as I say, it's the UK's equivalent of Shark Tank, and it's on primetime TV, BBC. That kind of made you a celebrity in the UK glamping space, I would say. I've not been in that space for a little while, but speaking to Callum and people at the UK glamping show, they said it was like you're a rock star at the show, everyone loving you. So, tell us a little bit about the opportunities that's given you since appearing on that show.
Yeah, well, Dragon's Den was just a phenomenal platform. The audience of that is anywhere between 4 and 7 million per episode, and obviously it's replayed over and over again. We're still watching episodes from 20 years ago because it was the original Shark Tank. That's the franchise of it as it's rolled out across the world. But the reason I went on there was just really to kind of boost the appearance of glamping within the UK. We were already fully booked before Dragon's Den. We were fully booked after. That wasn't the point of doing the show. What I've realised over the past couple of years is actually the more people we get to come to glamping as opposed to going to a hotel or a cottage or an Airbnb, then that'll be ultimately beneficial for me in the long term as we roll this business forward. So really it's just getting a spotlight on the glamping industry, and that's what Dragon's Den allowed me to do on a huge scale.
I think that's actually quite interesting because, I've spoken, usually when I'm a guest on other people's podcasts, I've spoken at length about the differences between the UK and the US glamping industries. And one significant difference that I've noticed just being behind the scenes is the culture of the industry in the US is a lot more collaborative and friendly. And, the UK, I wouldn't say it's cutthroat, but there's a lot of kind of rivalries and a lot of, sometimes bitterness in there. Whereas in the US, everyone is a bit more welcoming. I don't know whether that's the culture of the country or just the way that the industry shaped up. But I think if the UK can kind of foster that collaborative atmosphere a little bit better, and obviously you're taking strides towards doing that, then I think it would do well to emulate the US and Canadian markets in that sense.
Absolutely, it is. But I mean, there's a lot of really small independent businesses over here, and everybody kind of does do their own thing. And that's where I've realised actually working with other sites, we're all working in the same direction. I'm not in competition with any other glamping site in the UK. We're in competition as a group against hotels, Airbnbs, cottages, lodges, that sort of stuff. The more people we can get to look at glamping as as an amazing alternative for an accommodation or experiences, the better we all do. This is why I started GITA, which is the Glamping Industry Trade Association for the UK. It is this collaborative thing because working together we can do lots more. And it is that is what America does really well, and hopefully we're going to start doing it now.
Yeah, and I do have to shout out Ruben Martinez from the American Glamping Association because I think he probably has had a big part to play in fostering that collaborative atmosphere. And most of our listeners are American, so I do recommend you go and check the American Glamping Association out. And it's interesting. I'm asking out of pure personal curiosity rather than what the audience will want to listen to here. But it's interesting, kind of seeing how the UK exploded really before the US did in terms of glamping. But in some senses, it feels a lot further behind. Obviously, there's, the lack of venture capital and private equity, which is coming in very much in the US. There is, you've only just set up that association, whereas the American Glamping Association has been going for years and years now. So it is interesting seeing, how those two industries shape up. And I'm sure that they're going to kind of converge a little bit more, as both mature. But I find it fascinating, to be honest with you.
It is. In the UK, we do seem to have this small-minded, small-town approach to business. You're only serving your local community and things like that, where the Americans don't. They see an idea and think, right, how can we roll this out nationally? How can we take it to everybody? And everybody I've spoke to within the US space is all about, how do we grow exponentially? How can we do better? Where here we have this kind of cottage industry of things, and that's what glamping is kind of sat in. It's the rollover from the camping industry, which is just a little bit better. So it's very small in that regard, although there is a big volume of sites here. But working together with everybody, we can be a bigger voice in the industry now.
Yeah, and I started in glamping at Glampitect UK and fielding a lot of calls there, and it was kind of a farmer's got a spare patch of land, they want to add a few glamping pods on, and whereas I think there is a lot of that in the US in terms of we want to throw some domes on a property, but there is a little bit more creativity, I think, and a real passion for hospitality rather than just throwing some pods on some land. So last question on the UK, I'm kind of curious as to where you see that industry heading in the next kind of 5-10 years.
Well, I think there's kind of a split now, and this is where the term glamping is very difficult, and it is. And there's this split now where we're going to have, and I think what's going to happen is we've got the unique accommodation, unique experiences side of the market, which is what we do. And I think really that is what glamping is at its heart. It's an experience provider, not an accommodation provider, where I think the other end of the market's really going to get sucked back into the camping style market, where it then becomes glamorous camping again rather than glamping. So there's kind of these two splits in the market of where it's going to go. But ultimately, the good thing, like what we do now, we're pushing the envelope of what can be done, and that means everybody has to keep up. And a rising tide raises all ships. So I think the quality of the units, the quality of the experiences, the people who are getting on board are no longer looking at it as a kind of lifestyle business. We'll do it at the weekends and that's about it. People are running it like I do as a full business, and it can be amazing, not just from a monetary standpoint, but from a lifestyle standpoint as well.
Yeah, and the first time I came across Secret Garden Glamping, your business, before I knew who you were, before I knew you were on Dragon's Den, is I messaged Callum actually saying, like, I think this is the first bit of innovation I've seen in the UK market for a long time, and it is much needed. So I think you're right. Rising tide raises all ships. I think people are going to emulate you, probably try and beat you. There is a bit of a competition, obviously, and I know you like to say there's none, but there probably is, I'm sure. And so that's the end of the UK questions. That's my curiosity associated. Just to kind of set the scene for your popularity and how well you're doing, and kind of how that, to kind of establish your expertise, I suppose. Can you just tell us, first of all, how far your site is booked in advance currently? And actually, let's start with that. How far is your site booked in advance currently?
So in general, midweek availability anywhere from 12 to 18 months for a midweek stay. That's usually in like December, January, that sort of time. Weekends currently end of 2026. Before there's any availability there. We've just launched the dates for 2027 because people have been desperate for them. Some of the units, the newest 5 that we've done, all of them are fully booked until at least mid-2026 on weekdays, let alone weekends.
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. And I'm sure there's a lot of factors going into that. Obviously the link to the site will be in the description, and the Instagram will be in the description. You can see how beautifully the site is lighted, how it's all laid out, and that is one factor. Obviously, second, obviously, as you say, you're creating an experience, and I'm sure the guests come and they love it, and that's a huge factor. But I think what is I would suggest maybe has played the biggest factor in how successful that site is. You might disagree, is just how good your social media marketing is. As I said in the intro before you arrived, I think, well, I know you have the best understanding of social media algorithms, and particularly TikTok, that I've seen in the space. So again, to establish that kind of expertise, do you have a particularly eye-popping engagement stat that you've got from your social media content?
I mean, we've got loads, to be fair, but you're exactly right. So when I describe this business, we're a social media organization that has a glamping site. It's not the other way around. Our socials is absolutely where we've built this business on. I mean, again, across all the platforms now, I think we're on 1.2, 1.3 million followers. Our average monthly reach is around 10.2 million. We've had going towards 6 billion views across all of our social media now. And we're currently fielding around 100,000 views per month through the website. Our waiting list currently through socials is around 120, 130,000 for visitors to come to the site. So yeah, we have some amazing engagement across our social media platforms, and then huge opportunities with other social media enterprises as we go forward.
Yeah, and 1.2 million across all socials when you're in the UK is insane. Like, I think I don't think anyone is crossing a million in the US for their glamping businesses, outdoor, unique stay, whatever it may be. And the US is 5 times bigger. So that tells you all you need to know about the audience that you've got.
Yeah, when you compare us to glamping sites, they're literally we are 100x above anything else within the market. The closest competitors to us are actually huge platforms. We're on across our social platforms. We're bigger than Ho Seasons. We're bigger than Canopy and Stars. We're bigger than Centre Parks across our social platforms. And they are multi-billion-pound businesses. So when we're looking at our social stats, we're comparing ourselves to huge multinational companies.
Yeah, and Centre Parks, for those that don't know, is an absolute household name in the UK. It's you don't grow up in the UK without knowing about Centre Parks. The main thing you know about it is it's ridiculously expensive,
Yes.
which some people say about glamping anyway. So, but yeah, I mean that and just to kind of emphasize, those kind of numbers are insane, and that's why we're going to dive deep into Derry's social media expertise today, because why wouldn't you listen to someone who's achieved those kind of results? So The fun story that you kind of teased last time is you actually funded. I think you've done it multiple times now. Correct me if I'm wrong. A new glamping unit without actually showing what it looked like, and you've basically sold it out and funded the build without showing anyone what it looked like. So can you just tell us a little bit about how you did that?
Yeah, so it's exactly how we do every unit now, to be fair. So when it first started, again, it's changed now. When I first gained planning permission, I had 2.5 years worth of bookings with Airbnb, which was great, but as we all know, we only get paid after the guests stay. So I had 2.5 years worth of bookings, all that revenue sat in Airbnb's account. So when I gained the planning permission, I had no capital to build the units that were there, and I had to come up with it's at the time it was my own version of crowdfunding, just through my own platform. So I built a booking system, a website, social media because I didn't have it at the time, and decided to do a whole kind of I had to do a pre-launch of something that I hadn't built to try and take deposits in to build the unit. So I did a whole launch, and it was literally just a logo, which was the lodge, and it was based on what I'd built before. And I said, we're going to do something new, and it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be better than what we've done. And we managed to get a real buzz around not knowing what it was. So we had a load of bookings come in, which gave me the money then in those deposits to build the unit and get it ready for the day it opened. Now, what I didn't realise at the time, I was doing it from a revenue standpoint to be able to build it. But actually, that from a social media standpoint was amazing because you had all these people excited. It's like it's playing on lots of different things. Fear of loss. If you don't pre-book it, you're not going to get it when it opens because everybody's going to already have had it. You've got like Christmas Day. Everybody's excited to open something. They don't know what it is. Everybody wants to join a queue and see what's going on at the end. So what I didn't realise from doing that first thing was that when we actually launched the unit and let everybody see it, and that was on the first day when the first guests arrived, because I was still painting it up to that point. We had 600-700 people who'd all booked it and paid deposits for something they didn't know what it was. So they knew I was launching the photos at 7 p.m. on a Friday evening. So they were all sat there waiting online to go, have I made a mistake or have I booked something really good? And they all, in that little space of 2 or 3 minutes, we're all online, all commenting, all sharing it, and it made that post go viral. So we went from that one post, we went from 2,000 followers to 20,000 followers because of that, the way I structured that launch. And I realised actually I can fund my units through doing it, and I can gain social media audience and have people coming back over and over again because they want to see the new thing. So it's the way we do everything now. Everything gets pre-launched without anybody knowing what we're doing except for the name of the new unit, and everybody knows if you're not there at the pre-launch, you're not getting in, because once the photos drop, it's too late, it's already sold out. So you need to be there at the start.
And practically, what does that hype and launch look like? Like how many posts are you posting, to build up the anticipation? What kind of posts are you posting? What does that all look like?
So in all fairness, because we've got no content for it, because I don't show anybody, unlike everybody else, and I do understand the benefit. But when I look at this as a social media business, nobody, or in the general population, the audience don't want to see a half-built cabin. They want to see the end, the finish. You look at TikTok now. Nobody wants to sit there and wait for the story to end and have to watch it for 5 minutes to get the conclusion. They want the conclusion at the start and then see if they want to come on the journey with you. So we're hiding everything from them. So it's all stuff about, guessing what it is. What can it be? What do you think we should add in there? What do you want to see? What do you think is going to be something, the unique part of this? And it's just teasing that over a period of time until ultimately we get to the countdown, which is usually, 2 weeks before, and it's like, 2 weeks, it's coming, and then it's like, tomorrow it's like, it's literally a countdown time, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then they're online, so everybody knows then where they need to be at what time they need to be there.
And when you're asking these, getting people to guess what it might be or make suggestions and all of that, is it you talking to the camera? Is it a still picture with a caption? What does that look like?
Yeah, so in all fairness, and this is weird because I do, I love doing podcasts like this, I love doing talks and stuff. Weirdly, none of my content involves me talking because in general, I'm the biggest critic of myself. So if I record it and I have the option to edit it, I will do it 1,000 times and still not come up with the right one that suits me. So a lot of this is based on what we've done previously, because that's what people want to know. They know it's going to be as good as the one we've done before, well, at least as good as what we've done before and better. So we're going to have something new. So it will always be on the back of what we've done before. So this is the last thing we've done. The new one's going to be better. What could it possibly be? And those sorts of engaging posts where people are interacting with you, when you're asking questions and wanting answers, that keeps people coming onto the site. It keeps the momentum going. So it works really well.
Yeah, and you obviously are benefiting now from the fact that you've got that huge audience and people know you and people
Yeah.
know it's going to be great. Do you think it would be possible for someone to go from absolutely nothing with no track record and they've just bought the property, they've just got planning permission? Do you think it would be possible for someone to create that hype around it, organically?
I don't think it's impossible. No, I mean it's very hard, and I'm not going to lie. To get to the point that we have, which is really escape velocity from everything. We don't use any third-party OTAs. Everything's direct through our website. That was in a unique set of circumstances, which was on the back of COVID. It was at the right time, the right thing as the market was changing in the UK, and we brought something that was absolutely different to everybody else, so it stands out like a sore thumb. I heard a great quote the other day when I was at a round table actually, and it was "Be the purple cow." Be that thing that stands out from everything else, and I loved it. It was a brilliant quote. Celia, if you hear it,
Well,
that's who did it.
she's nicked it from Seth Godin, a
Is that
marketer.
where it is?
Yeah,
I heard it the
yeah,
other day.
yeah.
I've never heard it before, and it was brilliant. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what we did. So it can absolutely be done, and it's. I think the way I do it now would be all around the experience that we're providing. So what I've learned, especially in doing this over the years, is that, like I say, we're not, we're a social media organization, not a glamping site. We're also not accommodation. We're an experience provider that has accommodation. So the accommodation is secondary to everything else you do. So you don't need to show them the accommodation. If you don't have it, if you haven't built it, if it's not going to be spectacular, it's not going to be a treehouse or something amazing, it doesn't really need to focus around that. It's going to focus around the unique things that you're going to do at your property, whether that's the views, whether that's the adventures you're going to have there, whether it's the people that are working there. What we're finding with social media now is everybody wants to know about the story. And you might not think you've got a story. It might be quite plain that, I don't know, you bought some land because you wanted to farm and you're not doing it anymore. But within that, there will be bits that you can pull upon to create the story about your journey, why you're doing it, what you're interested in. We're finding real huge engagement in the stories of what we do here on site now, and that can be done secondary to all the units because they've seen the units a million times over. So actually, what they want to know now is, what are we doing? What do we believe in? What are we offering? So you can do all that without the units.
Yeah, and that definitely aligns well with an upcoming guest we've got on the podcast. I don't know whether you know Bolt Farm Treehouse in Tennessee, and they had a kind of similar story to you. Actually, they were actually on a Netflix show, the world's most amazing vacation rentals, and they had a bit of a following before because the co-owner Seth Bolt was in a band that was pretty well known, but they were still starting from not too much in glamping, and they are very much founder focused. They will do a lot of videos where they're talking to the camera, and I've noticed you've actually been doing quite I think you've built a lot of success on Instagram Reels and TikTok videos, which we're going to get onto. But I've noticed you've actually been posting a few more kind of just still images with quite a long caption with a story about how the site started or how you met your partner, for example.
Yeah.
And it's kind of in a similar vein to what Bolt Farm are doing, except they're just doing it talking to the camera. And it does seem that creating kind of that the content around the founder rather than the units or the accommodation or the views, it does seem to resonate with people, particularly if you've got that pre-existing audience and maybe they want to kind of learn a little bit more about how it all happened.
Yeah, so that it is true because what we've got compared to something like the Hilton, you're never going to see Mr. Hilton on the checkout desk. It's just not going to be there. So we can't play like the big boys do because it's pointless. You're trying to win a battle when they've got multi-millions of pounds to put into marketing. But what can we do? We can, as owners, as entrepreneurs, speak to people and speak to our audience about why we've started things, because that's really what people want to know now. When they're spending money, they're really looking into the reasons why they're spending it and who they're spending it with. For too long, lots of companies have just pillaged, whether it be the earth or the culture or whatever it might be, to try and make money. And that can be, outsourcing things and all these sorts of things. So people are really conscious about where their money's going now. And if they know it's going to an individual for a reason that's going to be beneficial to lots of different people, that's another key element of why they want to book.
Yeah, and I think, it's a wider cultural trend, really. I saw someone tweet the other day. There will never be another Beatles because social media and the internet is allowed for such kind of niche interests and niche audiences that there will never be kind of that cultural cornerstone that everyone kind of has to be aware of because they're all watching TV or listening to the radio where the message is kind of controlled. Whereas now it's so much, you can speak so much more directly to a much kind of narrower audience and have that much more targeted engagement. I think it is kind of sad that there isn't that kind of big cultural stuff anymore in that sensitive evidence, but there is an opportunity there because it gives you an opportunity to kind of beat, as you say, the corporate companies that don't really have that founder backstory, or if it was 100 years ago, and they've kind of lost that sense of founder kind of startup kind of thing.
Yeah, because that's how everything has really been controlled for a long, long time. It's all who's got the biggest budget. Where now it's not really about who's got the biggest budget. It's who's got the best creativity to speak to their audience. So you don't have to spend, like the Hilton, I'm sure, spend probably 10, 20, 30, 40 million a year on TV advertising or radio advertising or whatever it might be, just to try and keep that audience coming in. We can do it on a really small scale, like, even down to this, things like podcasts and stuff. You can speak directly to the people you want to come, where you could never really do that before.
Yeah, and it does, from this podcast, I was at the US Glamping show the other week, and it must have been kind of 15 people, which a show like that, there's it's not like there's millions of people at that show, came up to me and literally said, hey, I just wanted to come over and say thank you for the podcast and all of that. And we have a pretty small audience, but the fact that it's kind of resonated that much with those kind of people is pretty kind of it's kind of cool. And I can just imagine how many people you speak directly to with 1.2 million followers across social media.
Well, it's funny, actually. So back onto the social media, the one thing that I'm really, really proud of, especially with the social media platform, is that every single one of those people are true, genuine followers of us because they want to follow what we're doing. So you can easily gain an audience on social media by paying for it. Simple. You just, again, you back to the numbers game. If you spend enough, you can get a big enough audience. But that audience, yes, might have once looked at something to do with glamping, but they probably also like shoes and cars and boats and helicopters. Our audience is very, very specific. They are joining and following us because they like glamping and what we're doing. So where you have audiences for, like I say, other big businesses, the Hilton or Centre Parks in the UK, that audience is a bought audience, which is awful. It's just they might have a generic interest in it at some point, where our audience really engages with what we're doing because they're really interested in going glamping to our site. So it's also not just about the size of the audience, it's also about how engaged that audience is and how likely they are to book, because you can have 1 million followers and if nobody's booking, then it's pointless. But actually the way that we've created that, and that is, it can only be done organically. If it's paid for, although the targeting is getting better, it's still not foolproof, and unless it's organic, it's not true.
Yeah, and let's start getting a little bit technical. As I said in the pre-show intro, we're going to try and keep it accessible, but let's talk specifics a little bit, and we'll start slowly. As I said, your success, your social media success has really been built on short form video on social media. So that's TikTok, that's Instagram Reels, and I don't know the technical term for the Facebook videos. Is it Facebook Reels? Facebook Shorts?
Reels, just generic.
Yeah, so could you just kind of describe for anyone who doesn't know and isn't up to speed what short form video is on those platforms, and what those kind of videos are?
Yeah, well, actually, so I will just start by saying we've had several different changes with our social media over the past 4.5 years, because at first it was nothing to do with short form video. I didn't create any videos. Well, actually, I'd tell a lie. I created some, but in a different way. This was pre-TikTok, or before the explosion of TikTok. So all of my original social media audience was based around photography and text content. And then when TikTok came along, actually the videos that I was creating, which I loved creating at the time, which were these big videos, it'd be a journey through the woodland. So you'd start at the top and you'd go through the woods and kind of drone footage going through until you get to the unit, and then the final big reveal at the end. And when TikTok came along, I put the videos that had done really, really well on our Meta platforms onto there, and they absolutely bombed. They absolutely bombed, and I was like, "What is going on?" And it was then that we reframed the social media to realize that actually, with the TikTok generation, you need that payoff at the start. You need that hook to get them in. So the content that we do, although there's lots of different content, educational content, which is what you was just talking about earlier, talking to the camera about what you're doing, why you're doing it, those sorts of things, is really, really playing well on social media at the minute. The content that we do is realistically aspirational content. So it's showing the guests what they could be doing if they came here. So it could you want them to picture themselves sitting in the hot tubs, drinking champagne, roasting marshmallows, whatever it might be, whatever image you're trying to portray to them. It's the aspirational side of it, and that's what's hooking people into, yeah, I could really do that, I really want to do this, and that's what's leading to bookings. What you're never doing in any kind of short form video is selling to somebody. People can smell an advert a mile away now, and if you try and overtly sell to someone, you need to do this. You discount prices, whatever. People switch off. They do not engage anymore. So the content that we use is aspirational. Although the length of that content is stretching now. People do want longer videos, as opposed to the kind of short form 15, 30-second videos. There's a change in the algorithm that's actually boosting the longer form. Keeping a lower number of people engaged for a longer time is actually really beneficial. And that's where we have chances to tell our story a little more. But yeah, anything to do with the kind of short form 15, 30-second, we do around aspirational content.
Yeah, and I know this is going to be hard to answer because you do so many different types of videos, and you keep saying right now and at this time, because
Yeah.
the social media algorithm is always changing, and you always have to kind of adapt and kind of be at the forefront to understand how to change up your content. But could you just give a typical example of for someone who's never heard of a short form, heard of Instagram Reels, what a typical Instagram Reel would look like on your socials?
Yeah, so for us at the moment, it will be individual experiences. So it will be showing people about using the sauna. So it'll be content around the amazing saunas that we have here, or the amazing hot tubs that we have here, or the amazing units that we have here. Now the payoff is always at the start. So rather than leading them to the point of getting into a hot tub and drinking some champagne, that's front and center. The first bit is look at this amazing hot tub. So it'll be, the tagline will be hot tub nights at the Secret Garden, for example, or something like that. And we can do it based around each unit, or we do have it based around individual aspects of the site. So it could be around, spend a night in front of the fire with us at the Secret Garden, and it'll show all the different images or video content that we have of the fire pits. So it's that sort of thing that we're doing a lot of.
Okay, and when you're posting these videos, are you posting it primarily with the intention of gaining a new audience or connecting with your existing audience, or both?
So it is a combination of both. So we have two kind of different plans running at the same time. So we have our day-to-day content, that we're constantly doing across all of our platforms, which is playing to the audience we already have. When we're looking at expanding the audience, that's with our newer units, so our big launches. So we have a 3-month social media plan. To every 3 months, we're building up to something which is then what we're trying to make go viral. Those 3-month gaps are where we try and gain big chunks of audience. So that is specifically designed to gain a new audience, where our Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday posts are all about engaging the current audience and keeping the platform moving forward.
And there's a lot that obviously goes into a successful short form video. As you say, the payoff to keep people watching is obviously massive, but there's also things like kind of on-screen text, there's music. How important are those things to a successful short form video?
So they are very important now. I'm pretty sure if you go on TikTok, you will almost never see a video without text on there. Again, it comes down to the way people are using social media these days. So they're doing it on the way to work, on the way home from work, on the lunch break when they're not meant to be doing it. So a lot of people will play the videos on mute. So if you've got an amazing soundtrack in the background, a lot of people won't hear it. So they want to be able to read the text whilst it's on mute, whilst they're sat on the bus next to somebody else who they don't want really listening to what they're watching. And it also plays to lots of different abilities. You know, when we're looking at trying to be inclusive to lots of different audiences. So text over the talk, you know, especially if the video's specifically trying to get something across, because if you're trying to talk about a point, the text within the body of a video, the text that you're running alongside the video, you know, for the narration of it, people need to, that's what they're going to be looking at. They're not going to read the comments after. You know, it's very, very rare when it's a video. If it's a scheduled post and you're adding your content and your hashtags and things like that, that's important then, and people will read it. But when they're watching a video, they're not looking at anything else except for that video. So anything you need to get across needs to be in the body of that video. And if it's all about you telling somebody the reasons why you've started your business, that's got to be on the screen. So that is really important now.
Mm-hmm. And last time we had a call, you told me about your strategy of testing on TikTok before you post anything on Instagram and Facebook. So just tell the audience a little bit about that.
It's super simple. And this is, you know, a lot of people kind of stay away from TikTok because they think it's not the right audience for them, it's not the right market, whatever it might be, which is fine. But the thing with TikTok's algorithm is way more advanced than anybody else's. You know, Meta are constantly trying to play catch up on that platform. So before we put anything onto Meta, which is where our biggest audience is, in all fairness, we put everything onto TikTok. So we'll put a grid of 9 videos onto TikTok. And with us, it's slightly different because obviously we've got a really large audience. So to us, if something does less than 20 or 30,000, then it's nothing. And we want stuff to be doing 500,000, 1 million, 2 million, those sorts of figures. Now, it works just the same as if it was 10 views. The actual views do not count in this scenario because it depends on your audience size. But you will, if you put 9 videos on and your average audience is 10 views per video, out of them 9, there will be one that absolutely stands out above the rest that, say, got 100 views. Now, 100 views is nothing. You know, if you think, well, it's only 100 views. Well, that 100 views is still 10x anything else within that grid of 9. So that shows you that that video, for whatever reason, did 10 times better than the others. So we then take that one video and focus on that one video. So what was it? Was it the subject of the video? Was it the lighting? Was it the text? Was it the sound? These sorts of things. And we create videos that are similar to the best one that we did there. And we do that pattern again. So then this time, each one of them gets, say, 100 views, but one will get 1,000. And again, it's 10x. And you keep doing this process over and over again. And you're filtering down what people want to see and why they're engaging with you. We then take that content, put that onto our Facebook and Instagram platforms, and we know that Instagram and Facebook are copying the algorithm for TikTok. But the way, you know, they are behind in it. So we'll take the prime example I always use. We had a video on TikTok, exactly the same. Grid of 9, there was some that was 20, 30, 40,000. One video was at 1.1 million, absolutely stood out above the rest. We took that, put it onto Instagram Reels, it got 4.9 million on Instagram Reels. The exact same video, no difference, no editing, no changes. But because Instagram are trying to gain that audience back, it's like it gives it a boost. So anything that TikTok finds good, Instagram will find 5 times better than that. So you can test all your content on TikTok, because again, when we're looking at testing, you can pay to do it through Facebook and Instagram. You absolutely can. And you can do A to B testing and those sorts of things. But on TikTok, it's absolutely free. And there's no bias. So if you do 4 rubbish videos in a row and then one is really good, it doesn't matter. That one plays individually against anything else. Where on Facebook, you have this staging, this building up. So if you do 4 good videos in a row, the next video, the 5th one, they will automatically think it's going to be good. So they give it, you know, more of a reach automatically. Where TikTok doesn't play like that, it will be based on the content. So if you do rubbish content, nobody sees it. If you do great content, everybody sees it. So it's really a true outlook on how good that content is.
Yeah, and that makes sense because, I mean, TikTok exploded onto the scene, I think partially because they kind of pioneered that short form video I mean, I suppose there was like Vine before that, but really
Yeah.
they were kind of big proponents of short form video. At that time, Instagram and Facebook weren't even bothering with any of that stuff really. But I think it wasn't necessarily the concept of short form video that made TikTok explode. It was just how good the algorithm was, and it's scarily good really. And you
That's
wonder
it.
about the
That's the
and
exact thing what it is. You're
yeah.
right. It's not the content because that was always there. The thing is that the algorithm is that good. It's getting the content to the right people. That's always the aim of the game. It's pointless showing me videos of wedding shoes. No interest in it. Where Facebook would do that because they're just, if they're paid to show it to 50,000 people, they'll show it to 50,000 people. They don't care which 50,000 people they show it to, really, unless you're really diving into who's seeing that video. But a lot of people don't. Where TikTok, they'd rather have 10 really, really engaged people than 1,000 who just flick past it. They don't. That's no benefit to them. So it's all about getting the video to the right person who needs to see it. So if you're getting 1,000 views on Facebook and say 100 views on TikTok, I guarantee the 100 views on TikTok are way more valuable than the 1,000 views on Facebook.
And how important is the actual design of the site and the units to your virality?
So from our point of view, very. So all of my units are based around being able to create content. We can, when I come to design a new unit, to build a new unit, when I'm looking at adding facilities, everything in my mind is how is this going to play on social media? How is it going to look? So when we're looking at what lighting we're putting in, where we're even down to what direction, I always tell a good story, which is we've got a geodome. And in the centre of the geodome, inside, is a star sleeper bed. Now, the way it's designed, the bed should face straight out the window. And that gives the people sleeping in the bed the best view. Now, that's great. But when I came to build it, and I looked from a social media point of view, when I walk in the door at the back, the first thing you're faced with is a big flat wall. And you have to walk around it to see that amazing view. That's no good. It's too long. If it takes me 3 or 4 seconds to walk around that wall, everybody's left and they're watching the next Mr. Beast video or whatever else it might be. So what we did is I turned that unit by about 13 degrees, that central unit, so it doesn't point out the window. It points at a slight angle, which means you've got a slight vision from the door when the door opens all the way through the unit and out to the view outside. Now, that little change was nothing to do with the adaptation of the pod for the customers who are staying in it. That was all to do with how that video will look on social media. And that little tiny change makes a massive difference when you're trying to sell the product.
Well, I think, we've probably got enough technical info in there for today. That was an absolute masterclass in short form video and social media. The last question I have on that is, as we alluded to, the algorithms are changing all the time. What people want to see are changing all the time, and those two are kind of linked. Where do you see, what do you think the next trends are in socials that people need to be aware of, and if they want to get ahead of the game and get that virality going, what do they need to be aware of?
As we've kind of talked about all through this, and you can see it now at the moment, it is less to do with the business, as in what accommodation you're staying in. Everybody's done that 1,000 times over. I've done that 1,000 times over. People want to know why you're unique from anybody else from a personal level. They want to know your story. They want to know how to engage with you. If you can get somebody who feels like your friend, like you said about the 15 people who came to you at the Glamping show, they feel like they're friends with you, and they're way more likely to share your stuff. They're way more likely to talk positively about your business, and they're way more likely to book. So getting your story across to the customer is the ultimate goal, and that is what all social media platforms are about now, because social media has gone from something that was there to waste time. It's actually now people's hobbies. So you think when you get home, again in the UK we have Coronation Street and EastEnders, I'm sure you have stuff like that in the US. So people will come home from work at 5 o'clock, they'll have the dinner at 6 o'clock, sit down and watch Coronation Street or EastEnders. Now they do the same thing, but instead of watching Coronation Street or EastEnders, they'll sit and watch TikTok for an hour or two, and that's their hobby, that's their relaxation time, and they don't want to be sold to in that time. Everybody hated the adverts on TV, and now you can fast forward through them, which is great. So you're not trying to sell to them at that point. You're just trying to get across to somebody why you're different from everybody else and why they should put their trust in you to see what you're doing going forward.
We spend a lot of time talking about how to be successful in glamping financially, but it is nice when people do engage with you. Everyone who listens to this would know just how focused I am on getting Posh Outdoors off the ground and getting that first site open. And obviously, there are financial reasons to do that. But it was actually nice at the show. And thank you to everyone listening who did come and say hello, to kind of feel the impact that what you're doing is having on people, and how grateful they are, I suppose. And it is nice to get that kind of, not recognition, but just feel and actually meet the audience that because you don't know what they look like, what they sound like, and to actually see them in person, it is very nice. So I imagine from an operator's perspective, it is nice when you feel that sense of connection with your audience as well, and it gives you more rewards than just financial.
I was going to say that's it. It fits in with everything because everybody feels great about it. Nobody wants to feel like they're ripped off or sold to. They want to feel like they're part of something, and if they feel like they're connected with you, people who come down to this site know everything about me. Some of them they'll know when my daughter was born and what her favourite food is and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? And it's just phenomenal. It just makes you feel great about it. And these cheerleaders that you can have on social media platforms, they don't have to have a huge audience. Most people have 300, 400, 500 friends on Facebook or Instagram. But if they're cheerleading for you to those 400 people, it's way more beneficial than 1,000 people who just like a post. Those key kind of individuals who you want to praise and really engage with your stuff, that's who you want to be focusing on.
I think that's a nice way to end it. So Derry, again, that was an absolute masterclass. Thank you. It's always so fun talking to you. I always come away with about 3 pages worth of notes after talking to you. But yeah, that was great. So Derry, thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. And as I think I said last time when I was on here, if anybody needs anything, and I have had people reach out to me after being on your podcast, I'm an open book with most things. I'm really easy to talk to. If anybody wants to have a chat about something, or they're stuck with something, or they just want me to have a look at what they're doing, I'll give out pointers and help people. Like I said, to me, having that longevity within the glamping market is all about working together, and it's all about how we can all benefit each other. We're not all fighting for the same stuff. It's not like other businesses. So if anybody needs anything, just give me a shout. You're always welcome to have a chat.
There must be like 1 or 2 secrets that you're keeping up your sleeve for yourself, surely, Derry.
No,
surely.
Genuinely, it's a weird one because, and without sounding too like, I never try and talk about it too much, but because I feel like I'm cocky saying it. It's like at this point, nobody can catch us. From that point of view, so it's pointless me hiding it. If I can benefit people in a small or a large way, it's not going to detract from what we're doing. Like I said, when I always talk about Dragon's Den or Shark Tank in the US, when I did that, and the boost that it has for the whole glamping economy, you've got 4 or 5 million people looking at a glamping site and thinking, do you know what? I fancy going glamping now, and they might not book with me because we're fully booked. They might book with Dave down the road or Mrs. Smith's glamping or whatever it is. But ultimately, from a selfish point of view, if you search for glamping in the UK, you're going to find me. At some point, if somebody's searching for glamping, we're the most viewed hashtag of glamping in the world. So at some point, they're going to find me. So if I'm being selfish about it, if I'm helping you or your audience, and then more people start searching glamping, they're going to find me as well. So it's not just selfless, sorry. And when I'm doing it, it's because if I help the market, that does inevitably help me as well, as being at that pinnacle of what we're doing. So I get as much benefit out of it as anybody else does.
Yeah. Okay. And if someone does want to get in touch, what's your contact?
So you can find us, all of the social media platforms are the same, so it's at The Secret Garden Glamping. Our website is thesecretgardenglamping.uk. My phone number's still on there. If you want to give me a bell, just give me a bell.
I bet that's my busy phone.
Yeah, you know what? My phone never stops, to be fair. If you want to email me, info@thesecretgardenglamping, or I'm on LinkedIn as well as Derry Green, so you'll find me on there.
Perfect. Well, Derry, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
No problem. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.